Hello and welcome to episode 1 of Astrology Now, Crucial Insights for Critical Times. I decided to create this video series so that you can have up-to-date insights on very crucial planetary alignments that are occurring at this time. We are, of course, living in critical times. It can be understood as all in context to the dawning of the Age of Aquarius. In my opinion, the Age of Aquarius began in 1993 with the advent of the World Wide Web. And here we are still in the very early minutes of the age in context to the fact that it is a 2160 year period. So when you consider that the 28 years that have spanned since the dawn of the World Wide Web as public domain could be understood as approximately 6:15 in the morning. So it is very early, and we are certainly waking up to a very sobering state of affairs for humanity. So these insights I'll be sharing with you on a regular basis will provide you with a deeper understanding of planetary alignments that I deem critical for your awareness so that you can tune in and be more fully abreast of synchronicities that are likely to occur. Synchronicity is always occurring at a both generic level, but it's a very subjective, personal thing as well. So you need to keep that in mind. It's got a macro collective perspective for all of us, but also a personal subjective perspective. The subjective also refers to large areas and like countries or provinces or states or even cities for that matter, but the country will be more immediately impacted in a manner that affects everybody, and the states, provinces, cities, etc. will have a smaller degree of impact, but it is again relative, and the same is true of you yourself. You in your own journey within the larger context of the flow of events in the world at this time are going to, of course, undergo these transits very personally, but we can't get into that. I'm not going to show you what that means, so it's up to you to be aware of what your chart reveals in terms of its overall dynamic, which is not an easy task. You generally need to be an astrologer to do that, or you can keep in touch with an astrologer such as myself, and or just do your best to understand the degrees mentioned, and I will make clear mention of exactly which planets are being emphasized and what degrees they're at and why they're being emphasized, and generally also what we can expect from them. So here we go. I'm going to switch screens and show you a chart portrait of what's going on right now as of May 10th, 2021. Okay, so here we are looking at the chart for this date. In fact, it occurring on May 9th, 2021. Today is May 10th, so I'm referring back to what occurred just last evening, and I recognized it this weekend more specifically because we're into the finer details of what is going on here. Some of the perspectives I will share with you do reveal the broader picture, as with, for example, the fact that Pluto on one end of what's called a bowl chart and Mars on the other. If you notice that there's a bowl-like factor with all the planets here, and we have Pluto in what's called the cutting position. Not surprisingly, Pluto in Capricorn no less. Capricorn is a cardinal sign. It's very much about assertion. It's very much, cardinal signs are like verbs in the sentence. Very assertive, very expressive. So Pluto in Capricorn, the planet of power and transformation in the sign of governments, is revealing the draconian measures, the synchronicity of the draconian measures being exercised by governments the world over. In some places more vehemently than others, most definitely, but generally it's a worldwide condition. Now Mars at the bottom could be seen as the trailing planet, at the other end of the spectrum, because even though the zodiac goes this way, because the Earth is turning, it appears that the planets will be generally on a daily, what's called a diurnal motion, going this way. I don't want to get too much into technical details, Just trust me on that. Also, you'll see that the ascendant and the house cusps are always in direct alignment with the sun's degree. Okay, I'm doing that for the sake of simplicity and the fact that, some of you will be, of course, viewers will be at any place in the world, so there's no sense trying to decipher a location as it'll be different for everybody. But placing the sun and its exact degree as the ascendant, the rising sign, is a very helpful way of looking at a chart with the sun as the principal focal point, which is what it is in Western astrology in particular. Okay, so we'll always see the exact degree of the sun on the ascendant and all the house cusps exactly at that degree. It's just a point of perspective of a variety that you can choose from, such as the actual time and location you're in and the ascendant that might occur in that place, but which will be different subject to various time zones around the world. So there's the background of some of the technical details. Now, what's so significant about this day, interestingly, May 9th, 2021 celebrates Mother's Day, and most of you will be aware of that by now. But what I really want to bring attention to in this chart is the fact that Mars is in the sign of Cancer, and at the 10th degree of Cancer in particular. Now, what's so significant about that is that Mars in Cancer is already in a difficult place. It can be very positive in a constructive sense, linked to like a renovation process. In my personal life, we experienced the synchronicity of some lovely lilac trees having to be removed for the sake of some invasion that there was occurring to the septic field at the location where I live. And so sadly, my neighbors were left without any resort but to have to remove them, and they will be replaced with a set of nice new fir trees, which is lovely, but it was sad to see those lilac trees have to be cut down and removed by their very roots. This is very much a perfect synchronicity of Mars in Cancer. It's a real get to the bottom of things, clear out the dead wood, literally and figuratively, and it can be very aggressive, but it can also positively be very constructive. It all does depend on the situation. Now, Mars at the 10th degree of Cancer is also at what we call the decant and dwad of Scorpio. To understand that is to understand that that degree, the degrees in a sign, there's 30 degrees in a sign. When you divide it by into 3 parts, you have 3 segments of 10 degrees. Those are called decants. And if you divide the 30 degrees by 12, the 12 signs of the zodiac, you get a fractal perspective of each of the signs of the zodiac within the sign. This is a very important level of observation in astrology if one wants to really understand the finer details of what they're seeing. So it's generally referred to as the zodiac within the zodiac. And the technical term is dwads, spelt D-U-A-D or D-W-A-D in some instances, dwad. So there's decants and dwads within each sign. And when we understand that, we can say that Mars at 10 degrees is in the sign of Cancer, but it's in the decant and the dwad of Scorpio. So the way it works is the first 2.5 degrees of the sign is linked to that sign, and the next 2.5 degrees is linked to the sign in order that comes next. So if it was the next 2.5 after the first in the sign of Cancer would be Leo, then it would go to Virgo, then Libra. Excuse me, very much in that order. So when you understand that principle, and I'm saying this now in episode 1, just to give you some foundational principles so you'll understand better some of what I'm saying, but I will bring attention to it each time as we go along. So dwads and decants are an important fine-tuning of one's observation beyond the signs, the aspects, and the houses and aspects made between the planets. So now getting back to Mars. Mars in Scorpio, in Cancer, in the dwad and decant of Scorpio will remain so for some days. Okay, now what you want to understand is Mars is the co-ruler for Scorpio, so there's a quality of honor when it is there. However, it can be also understood as a very kind of aggressive energy. Already in the sign of Cancer, it's aggressive. Add to that the factor of Scorpio, that aggression goes to another level. So we can be aware of that and pay attention. Now, what I have is this small device with the solar fire program in astrology that allows me to move ahead in whether by minutes, seconds, minutes, hours, days, weeks, months, and years. It's a very wonderful little tool for astrologers to be able to work with. So in this case, I'm going to move by days. So you're going to watch. I'm going to advance the chart just a few days until we're going to arrive at 12.5 degrees of Cancer. So the date here is May 9th, 10:32 p.m. in Greenwich, England, which is the 0 on the hour line for the day. The 24-hour day is at 0 hour at Greenwich. So that's why that location is used. And so here we go. We're going to advance. Each click will be one day. So there's the first, there's the second, third, fourth. Now at this point, Mars has by May 13th arrived at 12 degrees Cancer 26. So I'm going to switch my little device to hours, and we're going to go up just enough. It moved very quickly to there we go. We're at 10:29. Then I'm going to switch to minutes, and we're not going to go down to seconds. We won't need to go that far, but we're just going to go to minutes, and okay, there we go. So what you have observed me do here is advanced the chart to the exact minute of 12:48 a.m. on May 14th, 2021. Of course, in the Western world here in North America, that will be the evening of May 13th, which itself is very significant in light of Jupiter entering Pisces. But I'll get back to that. For now, what you want to understand is that Mars in Cancer will, from the evening of May 9th to the evening of May 13th here in North America, so 4 days, be in the decant, specifically the Dwad of Scorpio. It'll actually remain in the decant of Scorpio for much longer. So the Dwad itself is the first emphasis. Okay, now I'm going to switch it to the larger picture, gone back to days, and I'm going to show you the entire time span that it's going to be in the decant of Scorpio. Okay, so the crucial emphasis on the Dwad is already there, and it's a very fine point. So, oops, I went over a bit. So you want to be aware of that. Now, at what we have to do is at this point, because it was going ahead each click at a day at a time, I had to move it back to hours. And you'll notice if you look very closely here, we have 1958. So each hour it advances approximately 1 minute. It's rather convenient the way Mars does that. So most importantly, we won't go into the finer details, but there's Mars having entered the third decant. The first decant of Cancer is ruled by Cancer. The second is ruled by Scorpio. And the third decant is the next water sign in order, which would be Pisces. So there's the decants, 10 degrees each. But the Dwads, once again, are 2.5 degree segments. So when we arrive at 20 degrees of Cancer, we now arrive at the decant and Dwad of Pisces. So that'll occur all the way on May 26th at 7:48 a.m. in Greenwich. So now what we understand then is that Mars will be in the decant of Scorpio all the way from May 9th to May 26th. It's a very aggressive, especially with the backdrop of Cancer, a very aggressive placement of and series of degrees in the tropical zodiac for Mars to be placed. So be aware of that. It is bound to manifest as aggression, violence, and basically those two words. A very positive expression of it will be some measure of, constructive renovation in whatever form and fashion, whether that's literal in your environment, whether it's psychological, emotional. That could occur physically, it could be political, but because of its aggression, you want to be careful interacting with others, driving, for example. Be aware that we're in this atmosphere of time. Now, I'm going to go back to the original date. I'm simply going to click out of here and then reopen the chart to bring us back to May 10th, which it is right now. The time it is right now actually is off. I'm going to change that just to animate this chart a little bit more. We're going to move forward to the hour it is right now, which is about 4 p.m. In Greenwich. Oops, whoops, I moved too quickly. I've already moved to May 11th. It happens, these little tools are quite sensitive, and you've got to pay attention as I multitask here. But that's the approximate time in Greenwich right now, about 4:26 in the afternoon. Okay, so we're just going to go there and keep it there, and that's okay. So there we go. We've changed the chart to be, very specifically what time it is right now. Now, so we see Mars is in that position of Cancer and in that decantant duad of Scorpio, which encompasses the larger frame of the decant all the way till May 26th, but just until the evening of May 13th will it be in the duad of Scorpio. So you want to specifically pay attention this week. All right. Now, what's also going on, and we'll get back to this, so I'm going to give you more updates. Next time, I'm going to show closer what's going on with Jupiter entering Pisces. But on a final note now, what I wanted to bring attention to is the fact that at this very time, Jupiter is at 29 degrees. As a matter of fact, I even want to go further back. I'm going to do this one more time. This is rather important. I see. Because I changed the date I'm going to change it back to I'm going to do this. I'm going to go back into May the 9th. And what I mostly want to show you is that the moon at that time, and we're talking about the evening when Mars advanced to exactly that 0 degree moment. So I'm going to do that. Watch this. I should have done that earlier, but I'm going to do it right now. What happened at the exact moment that Mars entered the decantant duad of Scorpio was the moon was also in Aries, which is the ruling planet for Mars, at the 29th degree. So what's significant about that is the moon was in its void of course position, just having passed a sextile to Jupiter here, which is at 2932. So what's going on is at the very moment of that Mars entering the decantant duad of Scorpio, two planets were at the critical degree of 29. 29 degrees in a chart, whether it's in your natal chart or an event chart of any kind, represents some principle of overcoming. There's some issue and it doesn't get overcome quickly. So what that generally means is that the moon generally refers to humanity, the masses in general. So it implies some critical factor of overcoming that we need to become aware of. And due to the sextile from the moon to Jupiter, okay, it does offer at best an opportunity like this moment. This very action I'm taking is very synchronistic. I didn't quite think of that before. I was just moved by my own intuitions and inspirations to want to share this with you, and I noticed, oh my God, yes, we are at this critical moment here, and this whole chart is like a snapshot of the sky at this very key moment. And yes, the critical overcoming points of 29 degrees are involved. So what it basically implies is that it's an opportunity to awaken. Sextiles represent opportunities to communicate, especially what's called a lower sextile, which this is. And I won't go into the details. There's lower and upper aspects, but the lower sextile is very much linked to Gemini. And in that regard, it's about communication. So here I am communicating to you something that can be deemed critical, some kind of orientation that we need to awaken to. That's symbolized by Jupiter at 29 degrees in Aquarius, the sign of awakening and illumination. Okay? And it's important to note that with the sun at the holding the position of the ascendant there, the sun on the first house, crowning the chart is Jupiter and Saturn, and it places Aquarius also at the prominent zenith point of the chart. Okay, the zenith is for public awareness. So to have all that Aquarius, the sign of awakening and illumination, they're synchronizing with this perspective, you can add to this whole understanding that yes, it's a very important time for us to awaken, to be aware. It's as though alarms have been sounded out there going on in the world. It's for you to decide what you think those alarms are saying. But if you pay attention to what's going on, both the mainstream media and, or more specifically, probably the internet and the alternative media, you'll understand what I'm referring to. There is an alarm bell being sounded on the planet that there's something critical and crucial for us to awaken to right now. And we may see over the course of this week, while Mars is in the decant and dwad of Scorpio, but specifically the dwad for this week, we'll see, well, hopefully not, but basically the likelihood is we'll witness synchronicities that reveal this rather aggressive, violent sign position for Mars to be in. Okay, so that's the main message. There is something to overcome, and this is episode 1, and I'm going to update you regularly now for over the coming days, weeks, and months, hopefully, so that you can gain deeper insight to what's going on right now, and then make some sense of it in terms of who you are and what you're experiencing in your life, and also what's going on. So you just increase your level of awareness with some objective tool that will help you gain insight into what's going on. So there we go. Thank you for your time and attention and for being here today. And I'll see you soon with episode 2.